The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zixthar of the Krellian Empire slammed his crystalline appendage against the podium. Ruby Chen stood at the human delegation's platform, her jaw clenched, dark eyes narrowing as the insults continued to flow from the reptilian diplomat's translator device. "Your species is weak," Zixthar hissed, his scales rippling with what his kind considered amusement. "You have no natural armor, no venom, no telepathic abilities. You are soft-bodied prey animals who stumbled into space travel by sheer accident." Ruby's colleague, Jax Morrison, placed a hand on her shoulder. He could feel the tension radiating from her like heat from a star. "Easy," he whispered. "Remember the protocols. For 3 cycles, the Krellian Empire had been pushing boundaries. They had seized human trade vessels, imprisoned colonists without cause, and now stood before the Council demanding that humanity surrender 12 of their outer rim settlements. The other species, the insectoid Vexari, the gaseous Numids, the ancient Eldrithi, watched with detached interest. This was politics as usual in their world. Disputes were settled through negotiation, economic pressure, or at worst, limited skirmishes that followed strict rules of engagement. They didn't understand humans yet. "We will take what we wish," Zixthar continued, emboldened by the silence, "and your pathetic species will comply. Or we will demonstrate why the Krellian Empire has dominated this sector for 10,000 years. Ruby's breathing had changed. Jax recognized it immediately. The slow, deliberate inhales, the way her shoulders squared. He'd seen it before during the Baresh incident, right before Ruby had single-handedly negotiated a hostage crisis by walking into an armed compound unarmed and walking out with all 23 captives. "Ruby," Jax warned. She stepped forward, and her voice cut through the chamber with diamond-edge clarity. "Now you've really pushed it," the translator devices stuttered. The phrase didn't translate well into most galactic languages. The idiom, the implication, the weight of cultural context behind those 6 simple words. But something in Ruby's tone made the Numid representative's gaseous form contract nervously. The Eldrithi observer, who had witnessed the rise and fall of 100 civilizations, suddenly sat upright in their hover throne. Zixthar, however, laughed. "Is that a threat, human? Your entire fleet couldn't—" "Jax," Ruby said calmly, not breaking eye contact with the Krellian. "Send the code phrase to command." "Ruby, are you sure?" Jax's fingers hovered over his communication device. "Send it." Jax tapped the sequence. 3 words appeared on his screen, transmitted instantaneously across quantum relays to Earth Command. "Gloves are off." The Vexari delegates' antennae twitched. Their species had made extensive studies of human culture, and their researcher caste had flagged certain phrases as critical warning signals. "Ambassador Chen," the Vexari clicked urgently. "Perhaps we should recess." "Too late," Ruby said softly. She turned to address the full council. "For 2 years we've played by your rules. We've attended your endless mediation sessions. We've filed formal protests through proper channels. We've responded to aggression with measured diplomacy because we wanted to be good galactic citizens." Her voice hardened. "That ends now." "Empty words," Zixthar scoffed. "What will you do, human? Write a strongly worded letter?" Ruby smiled, and several species representatives felt a primal chill run through their various anatomies. It was the smile of a predator, a reminder that humans had clawed their way up from Earth's brutal evolutionary ladder by being the most persistent, creative and vindictive hunters their planet had ever produced. "The thing about humans," Ruby said, addressing the council but staring at Zixthar, "is that we're really, really good at holding back, at being patient, at trying to be civilized." She paused. "But when you push us past that line, when we finally say that's it, that's when you remember that we're a species that invented the concept of overkill and thought it was a starting point." Jax's device chimed. He glanced down and went pale. "Ruby, Command has authorized protocol vindication." The Eldrithi observer rose. "Honored Council, I must interrupt. My species has records of human history. When they use phrases like 'that's it' or 'now you've pushed it', it historically precedes what they call total war." The ancient being's voice carried weight. "They are a species that once split atoms to end a conflict. They have flooded battlefields with fire. They have created weapons designed solely to maximize suffering as a deterrent. And critically, they innovate when angered. Superstitious nonsense, Zixthar growled, but his scales had paled slightly. Is it? Ruby pulled up a holographic display. In the past 3 hours since you began your ultimatum, here's what humanity has done. We've redirected 47 colony ships into defensive positions around the disputed settlements. We've activated weapons platforms you didn't know we had because we built them inside asteroids you thought were worthless rocks. And we've deployed what we call kinetic bombardment satellites, basically giant metal rods that we drop from orbit at relativistic speeds. No warheads needed, just physics. The council chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. But that's not the fun part, Ruby continued, her smile widening. See, humans have this concept called mutually assured destruction. It kept us from annihilating ourselves for decades. We're very comfortable with brinksmanship, so here's what's going to happen. You have 1 cycle to withdraw from all human territories and release all prisoners. If you don't, we start dropping rods. Not on military targets, on your mining operations, your trade hubs, your economic infrastructure. We'll bankrupt your empire without killing a single Krellian, and we'll do it in ways that don't technically violate a single Galactic Council warfare regulation. Zixthar's translator device struggled to capture his sputtering outrage. You wouldn't dare. We're humans, Jax interjected quietly. We invented spite as an art form. Try us. The Vexari delegate stood. The council will vote to intervene. On what grounds? Ruby asked innocently. Kinetic weapons are approved. Economic warfare is approved. We're following all your rules. We're just following them with human creativity. She leaned forward. That's what you never understood about us. We don't have scales or telepathy, but we have something much more dangerous. The ability to look at any system and find the loopholes, the exploits, the ways to turn your own rules into weapons against you. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, the Eldrithy spoke. I move that the Council grants all human territorial demands and formally apologizes for the Krellian transgression. Seconded. The Numid wheezed immediately. Thirded. The Vexari clicked. Frantically, Zixthar stared in disbelief as species after species voted to capitulate to the humans' position. Within minutes it was unanimous except for the Krellian delegation itself. As the council adjourned, Jax leaned close to Ruby. You know we were totally bluffing about half of that, right? Command gave us authorization, but those asteroid platforms, we have maybe 3? Ruby grinned. I know. But they don't. That's the other thing about humans. We're really, really good at poker faces. As they left the chamber, they passed the Eldrithy observer, who nodded respectfully. You played that well, Ambassador Chen. But a word of advice from one who has watched civilizations rise and fall. The galaxy now knows what happens when humans say those words. Use that reputation wisely. Ruby nodded solemnly. We will. We just needed everyone to understand that soft-bodied prey animals became the apex predators of Earth for a reason. We're patient, we're diplomatic, and we genuinely want peace. She paused at the door, looking back at the stunned council members. But when pushed, we pushed back hard enough to move planets. And from that day forward, every species in the Galactic Council knew. When a human says, now you've really pushed it, you apologize immediately. Because humanity's greatest weapon isn't their technology or their numbers, it's their absolute refusal to lose once they've decided they're done being nice. The end.